Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Mac, and this is Marshfoot Outdoors EDC and Gear. And today we're going to be doing a twofer video. We're going to be doing a side-by-side comparison of two pretty darn good affordable knives here, and they both fall under the Straight umbrella. We've got the Oldtimer Outdoorsman, and we've got the Uncle Henry Golden Spike. And I think that this is two knives that are great to compare side by side. Before we get started on the comparison here, my dog's over there going to probably make noise and get into mischief. So it is what it is. He does it to me just about every video. Anyway, before we get started on the knife comparison here, don't forget you can get yourself 10% off a decent quality, affordable knife or machete or kitchen knife, camp kitchen knife at odinwolf.com for all your outdoor adventures. You can use my affiliate link down below. It'll automatically take you to Odin Wolf's website, and it will automatically apply your 10% off. Or you can use the checkout code MARSH10 when you're all finished up and you're ready to check out. Plug that code in. That'll also get you 10% off. Also, you can get 20% off a pretty decent flashlight for your adventures, for your EDC. You can use them for weapons mounted lights if you want to on your rifles. If you go down below, you'll see the code MAC20. Make sure you put that all together, no spaces or anything in between MAC and 20, and you can get 20% off a flashlight from Woodsman. So check that out as well. And also, you can follow me on Instagram. Marshfoot Outdoors, that's where all the hunting content, fishing content, camping, things like that, that type of, full-on outdoors content is over there on Instagram. So, all right, now that we've got all that out of the way, if you're new to the channel, basically I do these initial knife reviews. Sometimes I've used the knife a little bit before I review them, carried them, used them, but a lot of times these knives have not had a lot of extensive use. They're basically kind of initial reviews. Now, we do a sharpness test, we do a paper cut test, and we do a ferro rod test in these videos just to kind of give a general idea of what they can do. And I like to really break them down and talk about everything from the sheath to the knife and kind of give my analysis on these knives. Now, as I stated, these are two Schrade company derivative companies, Oldtimer and Uncle Henry. These knives are made overseas. They are produced in China, but these are two pretty damn good knives, and I'm pretty impressed with the overall quality of both of these knives. Having said that, however, one of these knives I'm more fond of, and I think is just a touch better than the other, and we'll eventually see which one that is. So let's go ahead and let's start with the Uncle Henry Golden Spike, which this is the one that I purchased first. I've had this one about a week, maybe 7, 8, 10 days longer than the Oldtimer knife. Now, as I always talk about right from the jump with these knives, doesn't matter how expensive or how affordable a knife is, I talk about the sheath, because that's one of the first things that we see, and that's what carries our knife and protects our knife and keeps it on our side. Now, when you initially look at this sheath, you're kind of like, hey, look at the thickness. It's like almost a ½ inch thick here on the thickness of the stacked leather on the sheath. You look at this and you say, man, that's a pretty damn good sheath for a $30 knife. Well, not so fast, my friends, in the words of Lee Corso. It's an okay sheath for what it is. I'd much rather have a cheaper, lower end leather sheath for my knife than these really cheap, crappy nylon sheaths that come on a lot of these affordable knives. But this one, okay, so I carried this knife on a deer hunt, and I got into some pretty thick marsh and some bushwhacking, and I was slopping around in the marsh, and you can still see some vestiges of marsh mud on here. But just after carrying this for about a week or so deer hunting, you can see here you've got some splitting here near the button of the honing stone, which we'll talk about the stone in a second. But another thing that I noticed here is it's starting to separate already where they glued the leather together and the stitching stops. You can see that there. And this is only after a week or so of carry with the sheath. So to me, the sheath is not real great. It's okay. This button is pretty easily um, pushed open. You know, you get a piece of brush caught on that, and that would get popped open pretty easily. Now, the snap on the honing stone is a lot better, but if I was going to lose one thing or the other, I'd prefer to probably lose the honing stone instead of my knife. So, you know, that's the sheath. It does its job. It's okay. You know, it looks probably better than what it is. But listen, really, honestly, sheaths are sheaths. We can get aftermarket sheaths. We can have someone make a Kydex sheath. So for $30, I still like it better than a cheap, crappy nylon sheath. All right. So that's the sheath on the Golden Spike. It's okay. It'll do the job, but it's not great. Now, this little honing stone that they give you, um, you know, I honestly couldn't tell you how well this would do. I suppose it would be better than nothing. And I do like that. It kind of gives it that like kind of cool, like classic survival hunting knife look. So if that's a thing you're into, if you like that vibe and you like the idea of just having a little stone on you, even though it might not be the greatest in the world, a little whetstone, then this is something you'll maybe want to consider here with the Golden Spike. Why do I have sequin sparkles on me? Uh, no answer. I will not confirm nor deny any accusations as to why there's sequins and sparkles around. So, all right, that's the sheath there. Now, let's talk about the knife itself. Let's get down to what you guys probably really want to talk about. All right, so here we've got brushed nickel finger guard, quillin, whatever you want to call it. You've got that. That's actually going to be on both of these knives, and the handle material. Is what they call stagalon or staglon or something like that. Basically, it's an imitation stag handle. And just in case you think that that's something new that Imperial or Schrade or someone has been doing, I just want to, just for comparison's sake here, and for nostalgists who are going to say, "Oh man, these knives used to be made, you know, back in the day they were made out of much better real bone material." Well, I just want to show you. This is a vintage Imperial. Hopefully it's coming up there. It says Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island, USA. This is a little hatchet that I use for dressing game birds, chopping their wings off. That was my grandfather's. My dad is almost 70 years old, and he remembers this around when he was a kid. And I just want you to see that the scales on this little hatchet are also made out of some sort of plastic material. I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're the same kind of Durlin, but I just want you to see that. So Imperial, Schrade, whoever has been doing this for like 70 years. This thing is pushing probably 60 years old. So let's keep that in mind. So I'm not mad at them for that on this handle. Would it be cooler if it was real stag bone? Yes, it would. Now, I've seen some people do reviews on this Golden Spike, and they talk about basically these plastic rings here that are in between the handle and the pommel and in between the finger guard and the top of the handle. And some people have knocked this knife for inconsistencies in the manufacturing here, or a little bit of a ledge that may catch your finger, or uneven milling or whatever on the handle. Now, mine, the fit and finish on that is pretty much lines up perfectly with the pommel and with the finger guard. So, you know, the handle, I would say this handle, even though I love the way this knife looks, I do, and that's one of the reasons why I got it. I just love the classic look. I love the look of the sheath with the honing stone. This just looks like a knife you would just carry, and you would gut deer. You'd use it at camp. It would just be your companion on all sorts of outdoor adventures, and I love that. However, you've kind of got these finger grooves here, which I'm not against finger grooves in a knife, but these are just kind of, they're just slightly poorly placed, but they don't really, honestly, they're so shallow that you really don't feel them anyway. There's only 3 of them. It's kind of weird. There really just would have been better to just eliminate those altogether. You know, none of my fingers really fully line up in them. I mean, I have really big hands, but still, if you had smaller hands, they'd probably be okay. But so the handle, it's okay. There's not really any hot spots, but it doesn't go all the way through my hand. I do like the pommel of the knife to stick out past my palm a little bit, but it's close. So that's kind of my take on the handle. Now, this is supposed to be a full tang knife, but you'll see here that because of the way the handle is a fully kind of over molded handle, I don't know if this, I haven't disassembled this to see if it's a rat tail in there or what the actual tang of the knife, its construction is. And it is a full tang knife, but you can see here where it's held in, kind of everything's held together from the pommel to these spacer rings to the handle on up is all held in to all together with this screw. Now, how robust is that in a longevity standpoint? If you're using this a lot out in the field, out in camp, are you going to have to tighten this up every so often? Is that a vulnerable spot? I'm not sure because I haven't put the knife through that kind of paces yet. What I would probably do if this is going to be my everyday carry hunting knife, I would probably back this out and I'd probably put some at least some blue Loctite on it. There might already be some on there for all we know. Now, all right. Let's talk about the blade. You can see the blade geometry of this knife. It kind of has that upswept clip point. And yep, there goes a dog knocking my light over. All right, bud, let's back up just a little bit for me here. All right, professional operation here. So you've kind of got this upswept in a way, this almost like a trailing blade clip point here. You see you've got some secondary bevels up at the top of the blade. What you've got here is really you've got a hollow grind and you've got a double micro bevel on the actual cutting surface of the blade. And you've got what feels like a decently sharp knife right out of the box. And we're going to do our cut test. You can see here where we've got the laser engraving where it says Uncle Henry and Schrade. And I like that. That looks good. It looks classy. It's kind of old school. It's nostalgic looking. And then we've got, I guess, the serial number or model number of the knife. Overall, the fit and finish and the construction of this knife feels really, really good. And this is a knife that you can pick up for yourself for $30. So that's something to keep in mind here, as we always do with these knife reviews, is that this is a sub $30 knife. So as I said, you've got a bit of a hollow grind here until it gets up to these other bevels that they've got into the knife blade here. So not a super aggressive 90 degree spine, so I'm not quite sure how that's going to do on the ferro rod test. So the blade steel on this knife is 7CR17. So that is basically, from my research, that is basically the Chinese equivalent to 440A stainless steel with just some slight variations. But that's about the closest comparison that I've been able to find to a steel that some of us may be familiar with. So it's really a decent steel. It is a budget steel. Both these knives have the same exact steel composition for the blades. So, you know, it's corrosion resistance. It has corrosion resistance. It's not terribly hard, so you will be able to put an edge on this knife. Edge retention is supposedly pretty decent. And like I said, corrosion resistance is supposedly pretty decent. And that's part of the reason why these knives can be manufactured for the price that they are. So, you know, that's pretty much it on the Golden Spike. Overall, $30 knife, okay sheath. Love the lines of the knife. Really like the blade geometry. Really like the blade design. Like the looks of the knife. The handle is just okay. I like the pommel. I like the finger guard. I like a lot of things about this knife when I envision carrying this on my side as a hunting and camp knife. It's a fun knife. It looks good, and it's only $30. You've got a nice slicey blade. You've got a nice pointy tip there that's not doesn't look like it's too vulnerable of a tip as on some knives. So, you know, overall, the Uncle Henry Golden Spike, I would certainly recommend, if you like it, having taken into account what I've said about the handle maybe not being the greatest design, I still wouldn't hesitate to buy this knife. Um, but obviously, we have to do our cut test and our ferro rod test to see how it does there. Because look, right out of the box, I'm a right out of the box kind of guy. Okay, like I need my knives to be sharp and usable right out of the box. I don't want to have to be doing a bunch of work on the blade. I don't want to have to touch up a bunch of nicks in the blade or something like that. I don't want to have to sit there and spend a bunch of time sharpening it to get it serviceable. I want to be able to take it out of the box, put it on my side, and use it. And I think that's what a lot of end users want to do. So, all right, so we're actually getting some really decent sparks there. Plenty of sparks to start a fire, no question. Now let's go ahead and do our cut test here. Okay, so we can see that there's a little bit of tearing going on. All right. So not like what I would consider danger sharp. Could you take this out of the box and use it right away at the sharpness that it's at? Yes, you could. Would I want it sharper than this? Yes, I would. Could I use it? Yes, I could, but I would probably, depending on what I did with it, have to sharpen it pretty soon after. So overall, the Uncle Henry Golden Spike, it is what it is for the cost that it is. You're obviously, it's a nostalgic looking knife, and if you put a better edge on it, I would definitely rate it a little bit higher, maybe a little bit of a better sheath. But overall, not a bad little knife for 30 bucks. All right. Now let's talk about the Oldtimer Woodsman. Here we can see a similar sheath. However, well, I will tell you why this has a piece of duct tape on the back of it in just a moment. And it's it's not an indictment of the sheath at all. It's something that happened. And it also has something to do with this Band-Aid on my finger. So, the Oldtimer Outdoorsman. Here you can see you've got a similar kind of leather sheath minus the pocket for the honing stone, but a classic looking leather sheath. However, slightly higher quality. I don't know that it's any higher quality actual leather, but the stitching and what I love to see, which the Golden Spike didn't have on the sheath, which the Outdoorsman does, is it's got these rivets that are reinforcing that weak spot that we saw on the Golden Spike sheath. So we're not going to have that splitting. So right there, already out of the gate, the sheath is superior in craftsmanship and in just overall construction compared to the Golden Spike. And the snap, the retention snap, is a whole lot better. Has far more retention. You have to actually push it in, and you can't. Well, I just popped it open pretty easy there, didn't I? But it doesn't pop open nearly as easy as the Golden Spike one did. You just have to take my word for it. So, why is there a piece of duct tape on the back of this? Why did it almost slice off the top of my pinky finger when I got this knife and I put it into the sheath? So when you get this knife, it comes in the box. The knife is not in the sheath. The sheath was very compressed and tight, and I should have done some flexing to it, but I didn't. And I inserted the knife into the sheath for the first time, and I was having a little bit of trouble getting it in there because it was so, like the leather hadn't been formed to the knife blade yet. And the knife was so sharp, it just punctured right through the leather, just cut right through it like a hot knife through butter. And I turned it over, I was like, holy crap. And I saw the knife blade sticking out. I was like, man, okay, I'm going to be very careful taking that out. And I guess I wasn't careful enough, and I pulled this out, and I literally almost sliced off the top of my pinky for having this knife open for about 35 seconds. And we don't go to the emergency room here unless like you're super bleeding out, but it probably definitely needed stitches. I just dropped some super glue in her, and that worked wonderfully. So, all right, the sheath, much better, much higher quality. This is a sheath that I can actually use. I don't have to worry about it coming apart after just one day out in the field with it or whatever, a couple weeks out in the field. So I already give the sheath on the Oldtimer Outdoorsman a couple ratings above the Golden Spike. All right, now let's talk. Okay, so let's talk about the Oldtimer Outdoorsman. I really wanted to love the Golden Spike, and I did until I got this. All right, so I guess I'm kind of already giving away which one I like the best out of the two knives. This knife, the Golden Spike, kind of has a little bit of a toy feel to it because of the handle material. This Outdoorsman feels like a knife. It feels like a knife. Even though the handle's not a whole lot bigger, it's far more comfortable in the hand. The blade, the scale material is called Durlin. It's a polymer, plastic, resin material. It's known for its just ruggedness, its quality. You see that this is a true full tang knife. You can see that the tang goes all the way through the bottom of the scales. Here we've got, I don't know if they're nickel or if they're brass, but we've got three good sturdy bolsters through the scales, through the tang of the knife. They call this saw cut. I don't know if it really is, but that's what they call it. I doubt it really is. I'm sure it's just laser engraved to look that way, or etched. You see we've got the Oldtimer emblem kind of inlay into the scale there. I don't mind that. I like that for some reason. I don't usually like things like that, but I don't mind it on this knife. The fit and finish is really, really good. It's comfortable. The scales line up perfectly with the tang of the knife. It's comfortable in the hand. It's one of those knife handles that just feel like it's just very ergonomic in the hand. The finger guard on this knife, it just feels, for whatever reason, even though it's pretty much identical to the Golden Spike, it just feels sturdier to me. This knife overall is just a sturdier feeling knife. And let me show you a comparison on the thicknesses of the blade there. You can see, for all intents and purposes, actually the blade of the pommel and the handle of the Golden Spike sticks out a little bit further. But I still like the way this feels in my hand better compared to this one. You can see that the blade lengths are very similar. You can see that the geometry of the blades do have some similarities, but they have some differences as well. You've just got an overall more robust blade here. You've got more of a belly to the blade on the Outdoorsman. You could make the argument this could possibly be the better Skinner, the Golden Spike, but at the same time, you've still got that hunting knife Skinner type blade here on the Outdoorsman. Now, you can get this exact knife, this Outdoorsman, with this blade. It's called the Mountain Lion, the Oldtimer Mountain Lion. You can get basically this knife with this blade if you so desire. So there's kind of the side-by-side comparisons of the two. You can see there. So let's get back to the Outdoorsman. This thing, I feel like, is far sharper than the Golden Spike out of the box. We're going to find out when we do our cut test, but I just have the feeling that it is. If it's not, it's not. I guess I'm wrong. But you can see, same deal here. We've got Oldtimer laser etched into the blade, and we've got a number there, and then we've got the designation, the 165 OT. So this is the knife. This is the one. Right now, out of all of my knives that I own, if I'm going into the field, this is the one that I'm carrying. I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels in my hand. I like the size. I like the knife blade. The design is purpose driven for me for gutting deer, skinning animals. I think it's got a great kind of a blend of, just kind of a classic survival knife with a little bit of the upsweep of the clip point of a Skinner. I think that's perfect. I love that. I love that, it's a little bit thicker in the spine. These knives are pretty much the same price. As a matter of fact, you might even be able to get this one a little bit cheaper, and it just feels like a superior knife to me. You can easily get kind of lulled into, like the looks of this one because of the handle, and it's, you're like, oh, that's, and the sheath with the stone pocket, just kind of like, oh, it looks right, but looks are only on the surface. To me, this is a knife. Now, look, I feel like I could use this knife, the Golden Spike. Clearly, I can use this thing. Don't get me wrong. I would not feel underknifed if I was out in the field with this. Okay, just to say that. But this one here, if I were going to tell you, if you were torn between which one to get, really, if you use Amazon, you could buy both of them and keep the one that you like and send the other one back if you so choose. But I would say if you don't want to do that, get the Outdoorsman from Oldtimer. I love it. I really like this knife for a $30 Chinese knife. It does not. I love knives that feel far better than the price that you pay. Okay, and I could easily see paying, 50 to 60 bucks for this knife. I could. If somebody put it in my hand and I didn't know anything about it, I would think that this would be about a $60 knife, maybe even an $80 knife. Who knows? Same exact blade steel, the C7R17. So no difference there. Nothing else to talk about. So let's go ahead and let's do our paper cut test. No, let's do our ferro rod test first. Good sparkage there. Plenty serviceable. See, oh yeah. You see that? Much sharper. Whoops. That was me trying to go a little too fast. You've got a hollow grind here on this, but this blade thickens up pretty quick. Okay. So it's just something to keep in mind. This Golden Spike is probably going to be better for like slicing right through things like, at camp, meats, cheeses, things like that, because it's not as thick. But they both are hollow ground. Micro beveled. So there we go. Seems like there's maybe one little spot back here that's not quite as sharp as the rest of the blade, but far sharper out of the box and far more usable right out of the box from a sharpness standpoint than the Golden Spike. But both of them could be sharper. But they're not butter knife dull by any stretch of the imagination out of the box. So, well, that's my assessment of the two knives. These are, to me, competitors, even though the money goes to the same company. I still look at them as competitors for probably just overall sales. And I've got to give the nod, the tip of the cap to the Outdoorsman. I like both of these knives. Some point I'm kicking around doing the idea of some knife giveaways. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet, but I've got a surplus of knives. And if somebody could get some use out of them, I'm going to probably do some knife giveaways at some point. This might be one of the ones I give away. Might give away an Odin Wolf knife. I have no idea. You might get a used knife, a new knife. I don't know. I've still got to think about how I want to do that. But so that's my comparison of the Golden Spike and the Oldtimer Outdoorsman. Uncle Henry, Oldtimer. Which one's for you? Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's this one. I don't know. But for me, it is this one. Looking forward to carrying this knife on my side. Probably this is going to be my hunting companion for the rest of this year, just because I like it. I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels in my hand. It feels usable. It feels slicey. It feels like something that should be covered in deer blood very, very soon. And I don't mind the sheath. So, all right, guys, that's all I got on this one. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it was informative, and maybe it'll help you make a decision. And until the next time, I will see you guys later. Thank you for being here. Hope you subscribe. Hope you hit the thumbs up. Hope you comment, all the things. And I will see you on the happy hunting grounds. Thank you.